Morning, everyone. Maybe seated.
Come on.
We're here for the case of the state of Samuel Farnsworth, Plaintiff versus City of Philadelphia. Would the parties like to introduce themselves, starting with the plaintiff?
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning. My name is Jonathan Hubbard. Alongside me today is my co-counsel, Mr. David Jones.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Your Honor, today we're representing the estate of the farm defendant.
Thank you. And can you please just spell your last name for me? I didn't catch it.
Hubbard, Hubbard.
And David Johnson.
Yeah.
And defense.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
My name is Gurvin Anand, spelled Anand. And I'm joined at council table with my co-counsel, Mr. Sandeep Sikandar.
Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Today, we're representing the defense and the city of Philadelphia.
Thank you. You may proceed. Do you have any? We don't have any housekeeping matters, but my understanding is we might have some stipulations that you want to present.
Yes, Your Honor. We just, before trial today, both parties agree that Exhibit 1 is a photograph of the victim in today's case, pre-admitted into evidence that it is in fact the victim. His name is Sam Farnsworth. With that, we're ready to go.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
That's it. Thank you. And if you may proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. May it please the court. We're here today because the city was unprepared. The police were understaffed. And the public safety director was unconcerned. It's February 9th, 2025, Super Bowl Sunday. The clock is about to expire in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. As Kenny Pickett takes a knee, the Philadelphia Eagles have just won it all. The crowd is ecstatic. People are high-fiving, clapping, and cheering. Thousands of people in the stands are ready. But here, in downtown Philadelphia, hundreds of thousands of people are ready. They're flooding the streets of Center City, getting ready to celebrate. Just outside of this building, on 12th and Chestnut, a man is getting ready to celebrate with his best friend. He watches his best friend do something that all Philadelphians know happens during the Super Bowl celebration. Tries to get on top of one of those light posts you'll see outside. His friend walks up to it, looks right. Steps over a fence. Tries to climb up the light post. He watches him climb and climb and climb. And then he slips. And he falls. And he falls. But members of the jury, he doesn't fall on the ground. And people aren't there to catch him. He falls on top of someone. Kills them on impact. We're here today because the city of Philadelphia was unprepared. The police were understaffed. And the public safety director was unconcerned. Members of the jury, the man that died that day, his name is Sam Farnsworth. This is him. He was an aspiring law student at 2L right here in Philadelphia. You're going to learn today that Mr. Farnsworth died because of the actions of the city of Philadelphia. That's why we're suing them today. We're suing them for something called negligence. And what that means for you is that we have to prove that 4 things are more likely than not true. First, we had to show you that the city of Philadelphia had a duty to care for its citizens like Mr. Farnsworth. Second, we had to show you that they breached that duty by failing to act reasonably. Third and fourth, we had to show you that when the city of Philadelphia failed to act reasonably, it caused his death. We're going to show you that today. We'll walk you through how their actions contributed to his death by talking about how they were unprepared, understaffed, and unconcerned. Let's start with that first one, how they were unprepared. Because you're going to learn that for Philadelphians, they know that Super Bowl celebrations like this get a little wild. And you'll learn that the city knew that too. That this isn't the first time that people have tried to climb on light posts like this, gotten hurt doing it. You'll learn that the only way they prepare to physically stop someone from doing that is by putting a fence up. But not one of those fences that's maybe 10 feet or 6 feet. You'll learn the fences they put up were only a couple feet. Tall enough or short enough for someone to just step over. After we show you how they were unprepared, we're going to show you how the police were understaffed. You're going to hear today testimony that will show that for when the city was expecting 100,000 people to be on the streets of Philadelphia that night, they were prepared with 200 police officers. That is 1 police officer for every 500 people that would be on the street. When they were understaffed. But after we show you how they were unprepared, and after we show you how they were understaffed, we'll show you how the public safety director was unconcerned. You'll get to hear all the things the public safety director, the man in charge of making sure the city stayed safe, didn't do. How he didn't contact an outside safety expert. How he didn't get taller fences even though he knew he could. How when it was time to protect people, he was really talking to the mayor about protecting the city's image. Members of the jury, throughout today's trial, you're going to hear a lot from me and Mr. Anand about, well, what did the signs look like? Well, were things really there? Who should you believe? But what we don't want you to forget is who it's all really about. Sam. Because members of the jury, Sam Farnsworth, you'll learn, was someone who had a long life ahead of him. Sam Farnsworth was someone who mattered. But when the city failed to act reasonably, they caused his death. And by the end of today's trial, we hope you'll see that the city was unprepared, that the police were understaffed, and that the public safety director was unconcerned. And when you do, we'll ask that you find the city liable. Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor. The fans find a way. It's Super Bowl Sunday. The Eagles just won, and you step out onto Broad Street. All around you, there is a sea of people. They're all dressed in green and they're celebrating. But then the celebration starts to get a little out of hand. People are flipping over cars, fires are starting, the looting begins, people are breaking into businesses. Thousands upon thousands of people are flooding into the streets, and the city, they are doing everything they can to protect the people. But no matter what they do, the fans find a way. if you've lived here in Philly for long enough, or even if you haven't, you know that that's just how we are. We're passionate, we're committed, we're creative. And today you're going to learn everything that it takes to keep the people of this city safe, to keep the fans safe in these moments. You'll hear from the Director of Public Safety in Philadelphia, Walker Everett, and he'll tell you about all of the safety measures that the city takes to keep people safe. He'll tell you how these precautions, they adapt and they change to the fans and for every new celebration. But he'll also tell you that no matter what precautions that they took, no matter what they did, despite the city's best efforts, the fans always found a way. February 9th was no different. Mr. Hubbard just told you that Sam Farnsworth died during that celebration. And he's right when he says that Sam is what really matters today. There is no question that his death was a tragedy. Sam was with his best friend, Lanny Davidson. They were watching the Super Bowl together. And they were genuinely having a good time. They were having a few drinks. They were out on the streets. They were celebrating. And then Lanny comes across a light pole. There's a fence around, a physical barrier put up there by the city to keep them safe. You're going to learn that both Lanny and Sam climbed over that fence. They went past that barrier. And then Lanny climbed that light pole, 18 feet tall above the concrete. She slips, she falls, and she lands on Sam. What happens next is deeply sad. A 23-year-old is dead far, far too early. That is why the family of Sam Farnsworth is suing the city of Philadelphia for negligence. So today, they're going to come here and tell you that the city of Philadelphia, they didn't take the safety precautions that a reasonable person would in their position. And that is the most likely and most reasonable cause of Sam's death. They have to prove this to you by the preponderance of the evidence. That's their burden. Now today, we've also taken on an affirmative defense of comparative negligence. All that means for you is that at the end of this trial, you will be asked to compare the actions of Sam and Lanny against all of the safety measures that the city put in place. And when you do that, you'll see that the plaintiff will fail to meet their burden. And when they do, you need to find the city of Philadelphia not liable. We're going to do all of this today by proving to you one simple fact. That the fans, they always find a way. You're going to hear from Lanny Davidson today. And he's going to tell you that he and Sam chose to climb over that fence. That he chose to climb up that pole. That Sam chose to stand right underneath him while he did. Fans find a way. So at the end of this trial, I will come back here and I will ask you to find the city of Philadelphia not liable. Thank you.
Mr. Hubbard, may call your witness.
Plaintiff calls Lanny Davidson.
You're being perfectly sworn in.
Understood.
May I proceed, Your Honor? Could you please introduce yourself to the members of the jury?
Hi, my name is Laney Davidson. I'm a 2L at UCLA Law.
Mr. Davidson, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born and raised here in Philadelphia. That means I've been an Eagles fan all my life.
Sir, do you know why you're here testifying in court today?
I do. Yes. When the Eagles won the Super Bowl earlier this year, me and my friend Sam were celebrating when my friend Sam died.
Sir, is this him?
That's Sam.
Sir, I want to talk about that day. Sam died, all right?
Okay.
Take us back to the beginning. How did it start for you?
Well, we got into the city early in the morning, so we grabbed breakfast. Then we went to a couple restaurants and ultimately started watching the game at a bar. It's a couple blocks from here, the Guilds.
Well, sir, if you were at the Guild watching the game, what did you guys do after it finished?
Well, the Eagles just beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So, like everyone else in the city, we went out into the streets and started celebrating.
When you went out into the streets, I want to talk about what you saw, all right? So when you went out there, what did it look like?
It was wild. Anyone from the city knows what those kinds of celebrations look like. There were people packed shoulder to shoulder in the streets. Everyone was cheering, doing a bunch of different things.
What were you and Sam doing?
Well, at first, me and Sam were just taking it all in. But then at some point, I saw a street lamp and I was excited about the Eagles winning the game. And I decided to climb the pole.
So I want to see if we can find out whether or not the city prepared for that, all right?
Okay.
So when you decided to climb the pole, was there anything blocking your path to getting?
Not really. I mean, there was a little fence there, but that wasn't blocking much.
You said there was a fence. Would you recognize a photo of that?
I would, yeah.
And let the record reflect approaching opposing counsel, copy of exhibit 35. Hey, first witness. Would you like that? So what are you looking at?
This is a picture of a street lamp that has one of those fences around it. The fence looks exactly the same as the one from February 9th.
So I just want to be clear here. Is that the fence that you had went to on the night of?
No, this was a different street lamp with a fence around it, but it clearly represents the kind of fence that was around the pole that I climbed.
You gotta remove it and exhibit 35.
No objections, Your Honor.
Admitted.
So when you saw that fence there, how'd you get over it?
Well, I just stepped right over.
Well, hold on, you're saying you stepped over it. Did you have to jump?
No, I didn't.
Did you have to do a running start?
No, absolutely not.
So when you're saying you stepped over, do you mean this?
That's pretty much what it looked like. The fence was kind of short. I could just step right over.
So after you got inside of the fence, how did you get up the pole?
Well, I used the fence. I stepped onto the fence and used it to hoist myself up onto the pole. It actually helps me climb.
So with that in mind, I want to talk about the police, all right? So did you see any police on the way when you were walking up towards that pole?
No, all I saw was other Eagles fans.
Well, sir, what about when you were getting ready to climb the pole? Did you see any police then?
No, same thing. It was just me and Sam and a bunch of people wearing jerseys.
So what about when you were at the top of the pole? Did you ever see a police officer maybe run up and say, hey, stop doing that?
No, no officers told me to stop. I didn't even see any police when I was up there.
Objection, Your Honor, to lack of personal knowledge. Have you heard?
Yes.
Your Honor, Mr. Hubbard's question to the witness was, did you ever see a police officer come and tell you to stop? To that question, the witness is able to answer within their personal knowledge if they saw that.
Right.
But the witness went beyond that question and said, no police officer ever tried to tell me to stop. That they don't know. They already described the chaos of the streets and the situation. They don't know if a police officer ever tried, and they didn't see it.
Response, Your Honor.
You may.
He's testifying, this isn't lack of personal knowledge. He's testifying to his rationally based perception under Rule 701. He can tell the members of the jury whether or not a police officer tried to stop. Whether or not Mr. Anand believes that's accurate based on the circumstances is a matter of weight, not admissibility.
Do you respond?
Yes, Your Honor. Pursuant to Rule 701, for a witness to testify on their rational of the perceptions, there needs to be a consideration of the circumstances. And in these circumstances, the witness doesn't have personal knowledge about whether a police officer actually did try, only what they saw.
It's my understanding, his testimony is that he did not perceive any police officer attempt to stop him climbing the pole.
Yes, Your Honor.
I allow that.
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, sir, if the police didn't come up to you, I want to talk about what happened on that pole, all right?
Okay.
So when you got to the top, what'd you do next?
Well, I was up the top a little bit, but then at some point, I tried to come down.
Were you able to get down?
Not the way I would have wanted. When I tried to climb down the pole, I ended up slipping. I lost my grip and I fell
So where'd you fall?
right below where the pole was in this fenced off area on top of sand.
Thank you for your time, sir. Nothing further, Your Honor. Just asked to return the exhibit. And Your Honor, may I publish the
You may. You may proceed, counsel.
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Davidson.
Good morning.
You're familiar with what Philadelphia sports celebrations look like.
I am, like I mentioned, I was born and raised here, so I have a pretty good idea of what they look like.
You've been to a couple of them yourself.
That's true, yes.
You've seen the police preparing for these events.
I've seen the police officers greasing the poles, things like that prior to these celebrations, but there wasn't any greasing the poles.
Hold on a second, Mr. Davidson. We're just talking about what you know of these celebrations. In the past, you've also seen news coverage covering the events that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. People across the country always write stories about Philly fans celebrating.
You've seen video footage of what these fans are doing at celebrations like these. Before this trial, you were deposed, right?
Yes,
And at that time, you were shown some of this video footage.
that's correct.
You would recognize some of that video footage of these celebrations if I showed it to you.
You'd have to show it to me, but yeah, probably.
Your Honor, we're approaching with exhibit 37, which is a video recording of one of these events.
Show it to the guys. Or claims, sir. You may proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. Do you recognize this frame?
I do. Yeah, it's a frame from one of the videos I watched.
Does it look the same as when you last saw the video?
It does.
Your Honor, we move to enter exhibit 37 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Amen.
Yes, Your Honor. We'll now be playing the video exhibit 37 from timestamp 4 seconds.
All the jurors, everyone see what he was showing, or does anybody need to see it?
We can play it again for the jury. Mr. Davidson, what you saw in that video was a person on top of a pole in the streets of Philadelphia.
That's what it looked like. Yeah,
You saw the whole crowd cheering this person on.
that's right. Whenever someone would get on top of a pole during one of these celebrations, everyone would start cheering.
And you saw that person fall from the top of that pole.
I did see that.
To be clear, Mr. Davidson, you saw that video footage on the news before the February 9th celebration.
That's correct. I'd seen these kinds of videos before.
You saw that video footage before you climbed a light pole.
That's true.
Now, I want to talk about what exactly happened at the February 9th celebration. You and your friend Sam were watching the Super Bowl.
That's right. Like I mentioned, just a block here at McGillis.
And when the game ended, the two of you took to the streets and started celebrating.
That's right. There were tens of thousands of people in the streets.
Then you came across a light pole.
Yes,
You decided to climb it.
I did. Yes, I know now that I probably shouldn't have done that, but at the time, everyone celebrated, there were lots of other people doing it, and I decided to climb the pole.
You're telling us that you knew now not to climb the pole, but even then, you knew it was dangerous.
Well, I don't know if I knew it was dangerous. I knew that some people had fallen, but I felt confident that I could climb it well.
You're telling us you didn't know if it was dangerous, but you had seen that video footage before you climbed the pole.
I had seen that, yes.
Not only that, but just 2 weeks before you made that decision, you read in the news about someone dying from climbing the pole.
I did hear about that story, yeah.
You told us on direct examination that there was a fence around the pole.
That's correct. It was that short fence I showed you that you could kind of just step right over.
You're telling us you could step right over it. Would you recognize that picture if I showed it to you again?
Yeah, I had it a few seconds ago.
This is the fence you're telling us you could step right over.
That's correct. We kind of just went right over the fence.
You're telling this jury that you didn't need to climb it at all.
No,
That in just one stride, you could clear all the height of this fence.
well, it was a bit larger of a stride than that, but yeah, we stepped right over the fence, both me and Sam.
And you're telling us that it didn't really stop you from getting to the pole.
That's correct. Like I mentioned before, it actually helps me get onto the pole because I can use it to climb up.
Mr. Davidson, you knew that you weren't supposed to be climbing the pole.
I guess, yeah.
We can't take an I guess for the record, Mr. Davidson. You knew that you weren't supposed to climb the pole.
I knew that people weren't supposed to be climbing the poles, but once again, it was Super Bowl celebration. A lot of people were doing it, and I made a decision.
You know that you're not supposed to go into a fenced off area.
Well, I don't know if I could say that generally. It depends on what the fenced off area is.
Well, you made the decision to climb that pole anyway.
That's correct. Like I mentioned, I climbed the pole.
And when you got to the top, you slipped and you fell.
That's right. I fell around 100%.
If you didn't make the decision to climb the pole, Sam wouldn't have died like that.
Objection, Your Honor, just speculation, maybe you're.
Yes, Your Honor. If you hadn't made the decision to climb the pole, you wouldn't have fallen from it.
I guess if I wasn't on top of the pole, I would have fallen off the pole. Yeah,
And if you hadn't fell, you wouldn't have landed on Sam.
yes.
You're aware that you landing on Sam, that's what killed him.
Objection, Your Honor, speculation. Specifically, it's the details of how Mr. Farnsworth died.
Response, Your Honor?
I don't have enough of a record in front of me on causation for his ultimate cause of death. If that's part of the record, I apologize and you can tell me that, but if not, I'm not gonna allow him to render an opinion on causation.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Davidson, when you fell on Sam, you saw that he was bleeding from the head.
Yeah, after I got up, I was in pain and I looked down and I saw Sam's head.
Then he was taken to the hospital.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
He died that same night.
that's correct.
And if you hadn't fallen from that pole, you wouldn't have seen him on that floor bleeding.
Objection, Your Honor, lack of personal knowledge or speculation.
Response, Your Honor?
You can respond.
Yes, Your Honor. We're not asking for a general speculative opinion about all the events that could have happened. We're asking very directly about the choice that he made and the following consequence that happened directly after.
I'm going, okay, sorry, I don't step in here.
Your Honor, just specifically, the question is, had he not fallen from the pole, you would have never seen him bleeding on the ground that night. That's not something in his actually his perception.
I'm gonna allow that question.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Davidson, could you answer? If you hadn't fallen from that pole, you wouldn't have seen Sam underneath you bleeding on the floor.
In that specific situation, I guess not. I don't know what would have happened the rest of the night though.
Thank you, Mr. Davidson. Nothing further.
For direct examination, Your Honor.
No.
Your Honor, I'd like to republish the 37 videos. I'm not sure. Sir, I'm gonna show you the video again. I want you to look at specifically how the man on here falls, all right? So did you see that thing come across the screen?
I did, yeah, it looked like someone threw a bar.
So is that at all what happened in your situation?
No, no one ever threw anything.
Thank you for your answer. None further, Your Honor.
Okay,
No recross, Your Honor.
thank you. And just for my benefit, is recross permitted?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
No, just ask for the case. And with that, plaintiff rests his case in chief.
Thank you. And I assume you don't have a motion, or you do?
No motion, Your Honor, but we're ready to proceed with the next witness.
You may.
Thank you, Your Honor. We call Walker Edwards to the stand. Your Honor, we're going to be placing a binder in front of the witness with all the exhibits to reference during the examination.
It's fine. Morning, Mr. Walker. Can you want to instruct the police warrant?
Could you please introduce yourself?
Good morning, my name's Walker.
Why don't you tell the jury a little bit about
Sure, I grew up in the Bronx, back in '98, though, my family moved here to Philly. Giants weren't much to root for, so I came here, became a Birds fan. I made the move a little before Saquon did. I didn't take a breath.
What do you do for a living, Mr. Edwards?
I'm the city's public safety director. It's my job for celebrations, events like that to come in and make sure we keep our truth.
How long have you been acting in that role?
About 6 years now, but before then I was working with the mayor's office. Then we worked with the city resource. We've been doing this a long time.
Do you know why you are here today?
Yes, sir. I'm here because a man named Sam Farnsworth died at the Super Bowl parade this year. He was 23 years old. He climbed a light pole. The block.
Did you watch that happen?
We're not in person, but I know what happened, sir.
How are you familiar with what happened to Sam?
I really report every single incident like that on our streets. I get a report from the police.
Would you recognize the incident report that you read about Sam?
Absolutely.
Could you flip to exhibit 6 in that binder you have in front of you?
Sure. I've got it.
What do you see in front of you?
This is that report I received. It came to my office's desk after the Super Bowl parade. It's from Officer Jones.
Does it look the same as the last time you read this report?
Yes, no, it looks good.
Your Honor, we move to enter exhibit 6 into evidence.
I may see counsel any objections?
Yes, Your Honor, we have a hearsay contained within the document.
Yeah.
Your Honor, while we understand that this report we believe developed and create a public record, inside of the report, there's another level of hearsay from statements that this officer says other people have said. It's at the last page of the report, the officer describes talking to witnesses on the scene, and he says that the witnesses saw the same things that he did. You know, those are outside statements that they'd like for the truth of the matter asserted.
Response, Your Honor?
Yes.
To the 805 hearsay within hearsay, we're actually not offering any of those inner layer hearsay statements for the truth of the matter asserted. We're not offering them as corroborating statements for the events, and so we don't need to prove the truth of the matter asserted.
What are you offering this for?
Yes, Your Honor, we're offering these for the statements by the police officer, which, like Mr. Hubbard said, fall under the hearsay exception 8038. They establish the facts as the reporting officer reports them.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Yes.
Your Honor, they're not offering any statements except for statements by the police officer. We ask they redact the other statements made by other people in those reports.
Response, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, instead of redacting those statements, we'd like to construct or place a limiting instruction to the jury regarding those statements for the truth of the matter asserted. The reason being is that it's important to see Officer Jones stating in his incident report what he did in talking to those eyewitnesses.
Many people view these police reports as being prepared for litigation purposes and have a lot of inherent unreliability, and additionally a lot of hearsay in it. So I can't allow this to be admitted, and I don't know that we can go through a whole redaction process right now. So I'm going to sustain your objection and go back.
Clarification, Your Honor?
Yeah.
Is that sustained objection specifically to the statements that Mr. Hubbard was referring to, or the exhibit as a whole?
I'm not, the exhibit as a whole, I'm not admitting the police report.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thanks.
Now, Mr. Edwards, you told us that Sam Farnsworth died at the celebration.
True.
Do you know how that happened?
I do. I was informed that Mr. Farnsworth was standing below one of the light poles, 12th and Chestnut. A fan named Lanny Davidson climbed up about 18 feet high on that straight pole, then fell right on his neck. He died on impact.
Were you involved with any other celebrations in Philadelphia before this one?
Yes, sir. I started back in 2018. So the Eagles started doing pretty well. Won our first Super Bowl that year. Won another one in 2025. Been about 6 celebrations. Phillies, Eagles, Sixers and Flyers. I'm doing so well right now.
Had you ever heard of a fan climbing up one of those poles before February 9th?
Oh, absolutely. That's been a thing in Philadelphia for a while now. I'm sure you probably have seen.
Now, Mr. Edwards, I want to talk about all of the safety measures that you put in place for each of these celebrations one at a time.
Of course.
Starting with the first celebration in 2018, could you tell us what safety measures you put in place?
Well, that's when I was just starting my time and I asked the director of public safety. We've had the problem with people climbing the poles for a while now. You might remember back in 08 when the Phils won. And it's that point that I decided we wanted to make sure it wasn't as easy for people to climb up to the top of those poles when those falls could be dangerous. That's when we first used Crisco. I got the term grease the poles.
Did the fans find a way to climb those poles anyway?
Yes. Still had around a dozen fans. Just got all the poles down Broad Street. Still found a way up.
What about the next celebration in 2018? Did you make any changes?
We did. At that point, we moved from Crisco for the NFC Championship game to a biodegradable oil. Doesn't have the same ring to it, so you won't hear that in the news. But and we put that up. It's better against the elements. When it rains, that oil stays there.
Did the fans find a way to climb those poles anyway?
They did. Right? It was about the same number. We still had all those fans, about a dozen, climb those poles.
What about the next celebration in 2022? What security measures did you take?
We took the same ones we had there. We had that oil. We greased the poles and put officers on the streets. Tried to do what we could to keep those fans safe.
Did you put up any signs?
We did. We put up no stopping signs all down Broad Street. We even had them start from the stadium in Citizens Bank. And we didn't want people stopping on the streets and watching as those fans try to climb those poles. We don't want people to egg them on.
And how did you make sure the police officers were there?
We didn't let them take paid vacation. Told them we needed them on the ground. Didn't have time to watch the game. We needed to focus on keeping people safe. We dangerous up there.
Did the fans find a way to climb the poles anyway?
Yes, sir. It was actually around the same number. Everything we tried, fans were still finding a way to get up those poles.
What about 2023? Did you do anything different then?
We did. We moved on from biodegradable oil to actually oil grease for gears used in industrial machinery. It was more difficult to wipe off those poles. Fans were bringing towels when we had the original biodegradable oil, just wiping it off, helping their friends up. We wanted to make sure that was slick, make sure they couldn't get ripped and get up those poles.
Objection, Your Honor, at this point under Rule 404 is character evidence. Now
Yes.
you're specifically, the defense is offering past acts of the city acting reasonably, doing things to try to prevent people from climbing the poles, to show a reasonable action in the past, to argue that today's action was reasonable. Your Honor, they're using this for a 404 propensity purpose. The only actions of the city that matter in this case are the actions that relate to the event that caused Mr. Farnsworth's death.
Response, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, this is not being used for character evidence, and the reason why is simple. Because we're not using this to show action and conformity therewith. We're not using this to say that because they acted in a certain way in the past, that they were more or less likely to have behaved similarly in the future. We know exactly what safety measures were in place in 2025. That's not in contention, and the jury isn't being asked to determine which safety measures were taking place in 2025. This just goes to show what the reasonable standard is for safety measures.
If they want to talk about reasonable standards for safety measures, that's an in for expertise. What it isn't is talking about, well, we've done things in the past that were reasonable, and look, we're doing some of those things now. Remember, the only actions that should matter in this case are the ones that relate to the debt. Because they did well in the past, doesn't affect today.
I'm going to allow it. I think it's fair for him to talk about his experience in the past and how it's informed how he acted in this situation, so I'll allow it.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. In 2023, did the fans find a way to climb the poles end?
Yeah, we still had fans climbing those poles. No matter what we tried, they were still finding their way out.
What about the first celebration of 2025? Did you do anything different?
We did. At that point, we got the concerns about people climbing buildings, City Hall. We'd actually had a person fall off a building, the celebration before, so we put up wooden barricades, keep those off. And it was at that point we put police officers, we had 40 every 2 blocks. It was actually that time we made the decision not to breach the poles.
Did you do anything else? Did you add any more signs?
We put up fences around each of those poles. At all 100 poles down Broad Street, right up to City Hall, we fenced them off. Make sure fans knew it wasn't okay to go climb those poles.
Did you help the fans get home after the game?
Absolutely. We had free transportation. We wanted to make sure they got home safe and as quickly as possible.
What about the time that Sam died, the celebration in 2025? Did you do anything different that time?
Absolutely. The 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl, we launched a whole PR campaign. Telling the fans it's not okay, it's not safe. We had a fan get killed. We needed them to know, cut down on those numbers, keep those fans from doing things that was stupid because it's not safe.
Did the fans find a way to climb those poles anyway?
Yeah. But like they always do, the fans found a way. They got up those poles and it's terrible. They always do.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Nothing further.
May I proceed, Your Honor? Mr. Edwards. Let's talk about the fans.
Sure.
Sir, do you understand that your job is the Director of Public Safety for the Philadelphia City? Right?
Yes, sir.
That means it's your job when events like the Super Bowl celebration happen to keep people safe.
That's true.
It's your job to coordinate where police are gonna go.
That's true. I make the recommendations. I send them to the mayor. She signs off.
It's your job to coordinate how you're gonna protect those lampposts.
Well, we're not concerned about protecting the post. We're concerned about protecting people. But
Protecting
sure,
people from getting on the post, that's your job.
Absolutely.
Sir, you understand you wouldn't be doing your job if you said, well, the fans will do it anyway. I can't do too much, right?
Well, absolutely. That's why we try and take those additional precautions every time. See what works.
Right. So part of your job is anticipating that people do stupid things, right?
Absolutely.
Part of your job is anticipating that people might try to do dangerous things, right?
Yeah. No, especially during those exciting celebrations. Things can get out of hand.
Part of your job is trying to make sure the fans don't find a way.
That's true. We do all we can to make sure they don't.
You do all you can to make sure you don't. Sir, is that really true?
Yes, sir.
Sir, you're telling me you could have done nothing to make it safe.
Also, there are additional precautions we can take. Every single time we have one of those celebrations, we learn our lesson. We see what works, what doesn't. Philly fans are like no other. And we're really the forefront of this, trying to get ahead of the curve.
Hold on, sir. I need you to get back to my question. Because earlier you said, well, we could have done nothing more. Sir, do you believe you could have done nothing more to make it safe?
So with the information we had, no.
Sir, would you recognize a document of recommendations for public safety sent out by the Office of Public Safety?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, approaching opposing counsel a copy of Exhibit 10 that And first witness.
Yes, sir. Thanks, sir.
So this is a memorandum from the Office of Public Safety, correct?
Yeah, this is one we sent, after the Super Bowl.
It's a fair and accurate copy.
This is true.
Sir, this is your office.
Yes.
You're gonna remove it and exhibit 10.
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor, to hearsay?
How about to it being a business record or a public record?
Your Honor, we don't believe they've met the foundation to meet hearsay exception 8036. They haven't laid any of the prongs.
Your Honor, those words fall.
You can respond.
Your Honor, it's a public record, it's a business record, and furthermore, Your Honor, we're using this to go to his specifically his knowledge, whether or not he actually did know things could be safer. For all those reasons, it's not hearsay.
Response to 8038, Your Honor?
Briefly, yeah.
Yes, Your Honor, they also haven't met the prongs of 8038. For example, this isn't set up by a law enforcement agency.
I understand the objection. I understand work could be done to lay the foundation, but ultimately we get admitted, so I'm gonna admit it and.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
So in this memorandum, it's created after the events of this case where Mr. Farnsworth died.
That's true.
Sir, your office puts out things you could have done better.
So these are things we could do different.
No, sir, there are things you could have done better. Would you agree with that or not?
So I'm actually not sure on that. We have to have these plans in place and try it. Here in Philly, we are at the forefront, like I said earlier. We haven't tried these full climbers, covers that we put on. We haven't tried these drones to increase security. We have to put those in place, see if they work. And if they do, we implement those for those future events.
Sir, you're saying you're not sure if these things would have been better. I want to read what you say in this memorandum. Under purpose, onto the third line. I am formally recommending a series of public safety measures to mitigate future risks associated with large-scale sporting celebrations in the city. Your words.
That's true.
So in this, you talk about ways to keep people off lampposts, don't you?
That is true.
You talk about putting more police around the area, don't you?
It would be specific response units placed in certain parts of the city, but not necessarily more police officers.
Sir, you want to establish a dedicated post-victory response units within police and fire departments.
That's true.
So now that we understand what you believe you should have done, let's talk about what you did.
Objection, Your Honor, to attorney testifying. Have you heard?
Yes.
One of the statements that Mr. Hubbard just made is now that we've established what you believe should have been done, it was never the witness's testimony that these recommendations are what he believes should have been done prior to this celebration. They're recommendations for changes to make after.
I'm gonna give him some leeway because it's crossed, but you can clean it up if you need to redirect.
Yes, Your Honor.
Sir, the truth is, earlier you told us, you said, well, I put 40 cops every 2 blocks. You remember when you said that?
That's true.
Sir, you know that you expected over 100,000 people to be on the streets of Philadelphia that night.
And that's correct.
Sir, you know you decided to put 200 cops out on the streets.
That's true. We had 200 police officers in those streets right down on Broad.
That's it, as far as police officers go, right?
In that specific location around City Hall, that's true.
Not just City Hall, sir, all of Center City.
Yes,
Sir, specifically, you did not assign cops on 12th and Chestnut, did you?
not specifically to 12th and Chestnut. You had 40 officers every 2 blocks monitoring the streets down through those streets. That would cover that area.
Sir, you understand that 200 police officers for every 100,000 people, that's 1 police officer for every 500 people.
It's true.
So sitting here today, you're still claiming that that is a safe amount.
So yeah, that is within the standards.
Let's talk about why you might be saying that that is a safe amount. Sir, you still work for the city of Philadelphia, don't you?
I do.
Sir, you understand that the city of Philadelphia is on trial today.
That is my understanding.
You understand that this case is about someone who died.
Mr. Sam Farnsworth, that is true.
Sir, you care a lot about your image, don't you?
About my image personally,
Yes, sir.
I mean, I'd like to think I care a bit, but of course, safety is our first priority in the office. It's not whether I look good.
Really? Sir, we can agree that part of the reason why you didn't want to grease the polls is because it embarrassed you, right?
So it's because it was an embarrassment to the city. We weren't able to keep our citizens safe. And as that city officer there, sure, it was an embarrassment to that office. We had to do more, had to do better.
Sir, is it your testimony that it was only an embarrassment to the office, or that it was also an embarrassment to you personally?
Sure, it is my office, that is true.
So you agree, it's not just the office. You felt personally embarrassed. Yes?
About what, sir?
About the grease on your lampposts, right?
About the fact that the grease wasn't able to keep those fans off.
Right, because people were on the news talking about it, right?
That's correct.
They were mocking it, right?
Objection, Your Honor. I'd ask that Mr. Hubbard allow the witness to finish answering his questions.
Were you finished?
I was very close.
Sorry, I thought you were, go ahead.
My apology. There was just some coverage on it, CNN, national news outlets, not just the Inquirer.
Right, not just the Philadelphia Inquirer, this is the New York Times that was picking this up.
They did do an article on that, yes.
So after they picked this up, you went and had a chat with the mayor, right?
Yes, sir, we had to do better.
You and the mayor talked about how this really isn't good for PR.
No, sir, having citizens of Philadelphia get in unsafe situations on national news, it's not good for them, it's not good for us, it's not good for anybody.
Part of the reason you made that safety decision about the grease is to protect the city's PR.
Yes, sir, it's not good PR to have people in unsafe situations, sure.
Protect the city's PR. Sir, you understand that you're on camera today, don't you?
I didn't until now.
Another one right there, right?
Looks like it doesn't quite catch me.
Blue lights on.
That I can't see.
Sir, you understand that the people of Philadelphia are watching.
I don't know where you're from, but I hope so. Go Birds.
Thank you for your time, sir. If nothing further, Your Honor, just ask them, return the exhibit.
Thank you, counsel.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Edwards, Mr. Hubbard just asked you about whether you could have done, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Could you have done more with the information that you had?
At the time, no. We try out these sorts of fixes, these ways to patch the holes in our safety, our security. To try and see if they work.
He also asked you a lot about this memorandum that you sent. When did you send this memo to the office?
That was about 3 weeks after the Super Bowl.
So all the recommendations in there, did you think of them before or after this new celebration?
That was after. We saw how precautions worked. Then we went with new precautions.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Nothing further.
Maybe excuse me. Thanks.
And with that, Your Honor, the defense rests its case in chief.
So we're not going to take a break. I'll let you guys catch your breath, but we have to proceed right now to closing. So
Yes, Your Honor. Just give me a moment to align my exhibits. Thank you. Sam Farnsworth is dead because the city was unprepared, because the police were understaffed, and because the public safety director was unconcerned. If you've been in the city for a while, you know the feeling we get when our sports teams do well. You've seen the people lining the streets excited. It's because in a city like Philadelphia, You don't have to wear the pads to feel like you're part of the team. When you give so much to the team, you buy the tickets, you buy the gear, you feel like you are a part of them. You feel like the city is with you. That's what makes it so tragic today. Because that day might have been one of the best days of Mr. Farnsworth's life. Celebrating all he gave to the city. The unfortunate part, ladies and gentlemen, is that the city didn't give back to him. Because when he needed the city to protect him, they failed him. And that matters. It matters because of the lawsuit at hand today. Remember, today we're suing the city of Philadelphia for negligence. And all that means today is something very simple. Today, it's going to be your decision whether or not we've proved it is more likely than not that the city of Philadelphia breached their duty of care by failing to act reasonably. And that when they did, they caused Mr. Farnsworth's death. We've showed that to you today. By walking you through the failures in this city, walking you through how the city was unprepared, how the police were understaffed, and how the public safety director was unconcerned. Let's start with that first one, how the city was unprepared. Mr. Anand spent a lot of time talking about the things the city did. Specifically, you remember he went through, he said, well, Mr. Hubbard, or excuse me, Mr. Everett, didn't you do so much? We did the public safety transport. We made the buses free. We made sure people had the signs up. And members of the jury, well, that might sound all well and good. Today is about asking what a reasonable actor would do. So let's look at their preparation when it actually comes to the light poles. Because you and I know the only thing preventing somebody from getting to that pole was a fence. And while we know there are bigger fences, we also know they didn't use them. Why would it not be the most reasonable thing to get a bigger fence? Why put up a small barrier that you've heard today you can just step over? Mr. Anand says, well, I mean, it didn't look as easy as just stepping over. Members of the jury, he got over it anyway. So whether he had to step over or whether he had to push over, he got over. And that matters. Because the remedy for this situation was so simple, just get a bigger fence. But they didn't. They were unprepared. Let's talk about how the police were understaffed then. And this is one they have no answer for. Because as much as they like to say that free transportation was something good we did, as much as they like to talk about putting Crisco on the light poles, we know that putting an officer there on the scene would have helped. We know that officer may have stopped those events. 100,000 people, 200 officers. You don't have to be a public safety director to understand that that math does not add up. You don't have to be an expert to understand. One cop, 500 people. How on earth did they think it was reasonable that the police presence in their city would have any effect, no gaps at all, to protect the people here? They were understaffed. And that's not something Mr. Anand can respond to. That's not something they have an answer to. So if you know they were unprepared, if you know they were understaffed, how do you know they were unconcerned? Members of the jury, the way you establish how someone feels about something, it's not always what they say. It's what they do. And look no further for how the public safety director acted than on the stand today. Because on the stand today, remember he's talking to Mr. Anand, and Mr. Anand is saying, well, sir, I mean, did you really think of all those things that you could have done before or after? And he says, well, no, I mean, I didn't think of them until after the Super Bowl. It's his job to think of them. It's his job to think, hey, maybe we should have a department in the police for this. It's his job to think, well, maybe we could put some anti-pole climbing things up. Remember, the jury, you're gonna go back to the deliberation room with the recommendations that he gave. And while he could stand here and say, well, I don't necessarily think that that stuff would have been things I wanted to do. You know what he was saying before he had to talk to you. Members of the jury, the city failed and Mr. Farnsworth died because they were unprepared. The police were understaffed. And the public safety director was unconcerned. Bottom line.
Yes, Your Honor. The fans find a way. There is no question that this case, this whole situation is a tragedy. A young man lost his life on what should have been one of the greatest days of his life. His football team just won the Super Bowl. He was spending time with his best friend on the streets of his hometown. But the two of them made very bad decisions. And that's what this case is all about. An accident that cost Sam his life. And when something like this happens, it is natural to want to find someone, anyone to blame. That's why the plaintiff, the family of Sam Farnsworth, is here today suing the city for negligence. Now, like I told you earlier today, they had a burden to prove to you that it was the city's actions or their failure to act that was the most likely and most responsible cause of Sam's death. And because of our affirmative defense of comparative negligence, when we're all done here and you go to deliberate, the judge is going to give you some instructions. And he's going to tell you to compare, to weigh the actions of Sam and Laney, to disregard the city's safety measures against all of the city's safety measures. Simply put, the plaintiff has failed to meet their burden. Because the evidence showed us that it was Sam and it was Laney's actions that caused Sam to lose his life. And all trial long today, the plaintiff has been unable to respond to the one simple fact that I asked you to remember at the start of this trial. The fans find a way. Today, you heard that Laney and Sam, they both chose to step over or push over that fence. That Laney chose to climb all the way up that pole. And that Sam chose to stand right underneath him when he did. They found a way. And then you heard from Walker Edwards, the man who was in charge of the city safety, and he told you all of the safety measures that they took for the past 7 years. He told you how in 2018 they started greasing the poles with Crisco. Then later that same year, they switched to biodegradable gear oil. The fans found a way. Then in 2022, they put up signs all along Broad Street to make sure people didn't climb cars. And they didn't allow the police officers to take a vacation. The fans found a way. In 2023, they put up more signs. They took more precautions. They switched to a different oil. And the fans found a way. And then in the beginning of 2025, they put up a wooden barricade around all of City Hall. They provided free transportation for the fans to get back home. And again, the fans found a way. So that brings us to the second celebration of 2025, when the city made one more change. They added metal fences around every light post in Center City. They put up a physical barrier to stop people and to let them know not to climb up those poles. Again, the fans found a way. Mr. Hubbard can tell you all he likes that it was the city that was unconcerned or unprepared. I want you to compare the two witnesses that you heard from today. You heard from Laney Davidson, the best friend of Sam, who actually did climb that pole and fall on his friend and killed him. And he didn't seem very concerned with what he did. But he kept telling you, well, the fence was just there, I could step right over, I didn't see why not. It wasn't that dangerous, I mean, I'd seen other people fall from a pole, I heard that somebody else died doing it, but I could do it. He seemed unconcerned. But then when you heard from Walker Edwards, he seemed prepared. You heard about every precaution that he took for years, all the considerations he took, how he changed the plan every single time and learned from the past. The memo that Mr. Hubbard showed you, that shows you how prepared his office is, how his office continuously makes improvements to keep the city safe. Fact of the matter is, this city, they could have hired 100 more police officers. They could have put up 1,000 more fences. They could have greased every pole this side of Harrisburg. But the fans would still find a way because that's what they do. And it's why the plaintiff hasn't met their burden today. So I ask you to find the city of Philadelphia not liable. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Thank you, everyone.
Or rebuttal, Your Honor.
Oh, it is permitted, sure.
Yeah, sure, it is.
Keep it brief.
When you're talking about who is reasonable and who is not, weigh the factors. A public safety director who didn't consider what he should have done for public safety, or a Philadelphia Eagles fan doing what Philadelphia Eagles fans do. You decide.
Thank you, counsel. Thank you, everyone. The judges are going to enter their scores and then we'll have a discussion about the trial. That's right. Thank you.
Stop the recording.